Morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We will continue with chapter 1, verse 3. We're talking about the Ramban in the issue of taking a census, and he's been in the middle of discussing the story of David HaMelech, where David HaMelech did something wrong with taking a census, and there was a terrible plague among the Jewish people. And the Ramban is trying to understand what David's error was. So the first possibility he entertains is that maybe David just didn't use the half shekel. Maybe David just counted them by head. But the Ramban is very disinclined to assume that. It's hard to believe David didn't remember that issue. And it's hard to believe that Yoav wouldn't just correct it, even if he didn't speak to David about it. Even if he just implemented it, it wouldn't be an overt disobeying of David's orders if the way that he did the count was through the half shekel. So it's hard to believe that that's the story. The Ramban suggests that maybe the sin was that David was counting for no particularly good reason. In other words, maybe it's not that if you're counting with the half shekel, you can count whatever you want. Maybe there still has to be a good reason to it. And now I want to see one more idea. So in this Ramban on Pasuk Gimel, the second Ramban on Pasuk Gimel, it's probably about 3/4 of the way through. V'yitachinod shenefarish v'nomar ki David siva limnos kol ish Yisrael. Maybe the pshat is that David commanded that all of the males of Klal Yisrael should be counted. What does that mean? Ritzoni lomar mi ben shlosh esrei shana v'mala shehu ish. Maybe he didn't start it at males aged 20 and up. Maybe he started it at males aged 13 and up. Kilo niskar b'minyanu mi ben esim shana v'mala. Aval amar l'chusif Yisrael veidas misparam. If you look at the psukim in the story of David HaMelech, it doesn't say count from 20 and up. In the story of David HaMelech, it says just count the men of Klal Yisrael. V'zehu ansho, and then maybe that's why he's being punished. Ki akasuv lo hirsha limnos kain rak ben esim shana v'mala b'shkalim. Yes, the Torah only permits counting by the half shekel, but the Torah also only introduces the concept of counting for males aged 20 and up. And maybe, says the Ramban, the issue was that he started at a younger age. And the Ramban says it could be, it's more understandable that he erred in this regard because it's not explicit in the verse. When the Torah introduces the idea of the half shekel, it says, and there shouldn't be a plague upon them. So David figured, look, as I can count whoever I want to count as long as we're doing it with the half shekel. That's the indication of the atonement. But Yoav was concerned about it. Okay, I don't want to go too far here, but this is this third possibility the Ramban raises, that David used the half shekel, and the issue was David counted them from 13 and up and not 20 and up. Interesting idea. Okay, let's jump ahead. So the Torah now gives us the head of each tribe was instructed to work with Moshe to get the numbers for each tribe. And now, chapter 1, verse 17, Vayikach Moshe v'Aaron eswan hashim ha'ela asher nikvu b'shemos. Moshe and Aaron took these people that were designated by name. Now, 18 base kol ha'ida hikilu be'echad lachodesh hashini. They gathered everyone on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, Vayisyaldu al mishpachosam leveis avosam. This is a very interesting phrase. Vayisyaldu means, and they gave birth, or they were established as generations by their families for their extended families. But Vayisyaldu really jumps out at you. The mispar shemos, by the number of the names, from the age of 20 for their heads, Kasher tzivu Hashem es Moshe, as God commanded Moshe, vayifkedem bar Sinai, and he instructed him at Sinai, or he counted them at Sinai. Okay, a few questions over here. Question number one. So this all happened on one day? I mean, it says that he gathered them up on Rosh Chodesh Iyar, so he just lickety split. He got the numbers on one day, maybe. Question number two, we already mentioned this word in verse 18, Vayisyaldu, something about birthing, difficult to understand. And then why in the world does it need to say the closing phrase of verse 19, and he counted them at Midbar Sinai? We said he counted them. We know they're in the Sinai desert. That's what we began the parsha with. So not only did he count them, but he counted them in the Sinai desert. Yeah, that's the context of the psukim. So what's going on over here? Let's start with the Ramban. Ramban on pasuk Yud Ches. Veis kol eido hikilu be'echad lachodesh hashini. Yazkir zrizus Moshe b'mitzvahs Hashem. The pasuk is indicating Moshe's diligence with God's commandments. Ki biyom hadibur lakach hanasiyim. On the very day that God conveyed the message, Moshe gathered together the heads of tribes. V'hikil kol eidah. And he gathered together the congregation, the nation. V'hischil lifkod osam. And he got cracking. So the Ramban says the point over here in the pasuk is this is not, Moshe didn't put this on his to-do list. Moshe didn't, start thinking about who's going to be on the committee. Moshe got right to it. Avalo nishlam haminyan biyom echad. But it's not that he did it all in one day. It's that he began on that day. Ulekach chazar v'omar v'yifkedem Bamidbar Sinai. The Ramban says that's what's learned from that phrase in 19, and he counted them in Sinai desert. Lo dia shahaya b'makom ahu, lo bayom ahu. So by saying he counted them at Sinai, teaches us he counted them in that place, but the clear implication is in the place he counted them, but not on the date. So what that's teaching us, said the Ramban, but in a positive way, it's not saying it in a negative way, but what it's teaching us is that the project began on Rosh Chodesh year, but it took much longer than just that one day. Next Ramban, so he starts off by citing Rashi, Heviu Sifrei Yichuseyam, Ve'edei Cheskas Leidasam, Kol Echad Ve'echad Lisyachis Al Hashevet. So Rashi says a really neat thing, that each person came forward, they brought a document certifying their lineage. In other words, some kind of formal family tree certifying that this is where they fit in and this is their family. This was very, very important because they were going to get rights based on which tribe they were in. They were going to get placed based on which tribe they were in. So we needed to make sure they were in the right tribe. So they brought their documentation of birth, and listen to this. They brought the witnesses of their birth. That's the other thing that Rashi says. So they brought documents, and they brought, Ruvain and Shimon would come and say, yeah, we remember we were Levi. He was such a cute kid, but they would give Eidos that they would say they remember him. He was born to such and such a mother and such a father. Says the Ramban. But Rashi's clearly getting it from this strange language, or seemingly strange language of Vayisyaldu, that they were birthed. So Rashi says it means each person needed to bring documentation and proof of his birth. Ramban says, I don't think they would have to do that. The Ramban says that Vayisyaldu is sort of clarified by the following phrase, Mishpachosam Leveisavosam, that the manner in which they were counted, the structure in which they were counted, the way in which they were organized for the counting, established them as being part of a given family. In other words, we're going to do, Beryl's family. Beryl's extended family. Beryl's the patriarch, and then he has these children, and each one has their own family. So they would kind of organize people in that way. That's what the Ramban says. What it means that they were birthed. Vatam lomer kasher tzivo sam Moshe came bi'agvura nikalu edu kulam el oamoed. So when Moshe Rabbeinu was given this instruction, all of the nation, all of the males of the nation, presumably of 20 and up, gathered by the 10th meeting, chutz me'erev rav. Remember, this must have been so strange, but the mixed multitude, the Erev Rav, the Egyptians who came along, who weren't of Jewish descent, didn't come, because this was not relevant for them. Sorry, I didn't say that right. Ramban says the reason they didn't come forward is because everybody knew their store. In other words, everybody knew who they were, and everybody knew what their status was. So each male, 20 and up, from those of Jewish descent, would bring their shekel, their half shekel. they would say before Moshe and the heads of tribes, Ani Ploni, Noladati Leploni, Mimishpachas Ploni, She L'Shevet Ruvain Vizulasa. Each person would come and have a formula that they would say. Obviously, different people would say different things. I am, Chaim Yankel, the son of Beryl, from the tribe of Reuven. That's what it means. L'mishpachosam, leveis avosam, by their families, by their extended families. Moshe no sein shikle kol shevet v'shevet b'makom miyuchad. And then what Moshe would do, it's because there was this whole scrum. Right? Was that the right word? There was this whole scrum right by Moshe's tent. So he had to organize it. Oh, this guy says he's from Shevet Ruvain. I'm going to put it in the Ruvain pile. Because remember, that's the means of counting, the coins. This guy says he's from Shevet Shimon. I'm going to put it in the Shimon pile, et cetera, et cetera. The Yada Mispar Klal Vaprat. So then through that, Moshe would then know how many were in each tribe. And Moshe would also know how many were in the nation. Varaya Baseth. Ramban says the proof that what I'm saying is correct. Ki b'minyan hasheni, she'izker mishpachos, lo amar sham vayis yaldu. It's a really interesting point. The next time the Jewish people are counted, it doesn't use this language of Vayis Yaldu, that they were birthed. And it doesn't say by the number of names by their heads. It was much simpler the next time it was counted because they were camped separately. Reuven was all camped in one section, and Shimon was all camped in the other section. That hasn't happened yet. That's going to happen in this parsha. But when Moshe does the counting at the beginning of the parsha, it hasn't happened yet. Everybody knows now they had families from such a tribe. All they needed to know was how many families were in the tribe. And each family would count its numbers. Ramban says there weren't heads of tribes involved in those numbers. It was just, there was, the way we would do it today is there'd be a mail or email or it is a WhatsApp, whatever, that would go to every head of family and say, we know you're a member of the tribe of Reuven. Please let us know how many in your family, how many in your household. And that would go around to every household, every extended family, I don't know, whichever way it went. But there didn't need to be each person coming forward because things already were organized. But the Ramban says over here, it wasn't yet organized. So just a very, very interesting, wasn't yet established who's in what tribe. So very interesting Ramban over here. So we discussed another possibility in terms of the story of David HaMelech, and we discussed this discussion between Rashi and the Ramban as what exactly were the mechanics at the time of the counting.